I, 42 male, married my wife, Emily, 38 female, 10 years ago. We met at a mutual friend's party, hit it off instantly, and everything just clicked. She was funny, charming, and intelligent, and I fell hard for her. We got married after dating for 2 years, and for a while, things were great. We bought a house, traveled a bit, and talked about starting a family someday. However, things started to change around year 5 of our marriage. Emily became increasingly unhappy with our life. She wanted more excitement, more money, more spontaneity. I, on the other hand, was content with our quiet life. I have a decent job as a software engineer, and while we're not wealthy, we're comfortable. I thought we had a good life, but Emily started becoming more vocal about her dissatisfaction. To be honest, I thought it was just a phase. I tried my best to keep her happy, planning more dates, spontaneous trips, and even considering moving to a more happening city, as she put it. But no matter what I did, it seemed like it was never enough for her. 2 years ago, my dad got very sick. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and the doctors gave him less than a year to live. My mom had passed away when I was young, so I was his only family. We were very close, and I felt like it was my duty to be there for him in his final days. I decided to move in with him and take care of him full time. Emily wasn't thrilled about this decision. She was never particularly close to my dad, and complained that it would disrupt our lives. She didn't understand why I couldn't just hire a nurse to take care of him. But for me, it was about more than just providing care. It was about spending as much time as I could with him before he was gone. For the first few weeks, Emily tried to make it work. She would visit occasionally, but it was clear she wasn't happy. I could see the frustration on her face every time she came over. She complained about the smell of the hospital equipment, the constant doctor's visits, and the lack of privacy. Then, about 3 months into caring for my dad, Emily gave me an ultimatum. She told me that if I didn't come back home and start focusing on our marriage, she would leave me. She said she couldn't handle being neglected and living this way any longer. I was torn. I loved Emily, but my dad needed me. I told her that I couldn't abandon my father, not when he needed me most. That's when she left. She packed her bags and moved out of our house, saying she was going to stay with her sister in another city. I was devastated. Here I was, losing my father, and now my wife. But I couldn't focus on that. My dad's condition was worsening, and he needed me more than ever. My father passed away about 5 months after Emily left. Those were the hardest months of my life, but I didn't regret a single moment I spent with him. After his death, I was grieving, trying to pick up the pieces of my life and deciding what to do next. A few weeks after his funeral, the lawyer read my dad's will. He left me everything. To my complete shock, my dad had been far more financially secure than I ever realized. I knew he was well off, but I had no idea just how much he had. There were investments, properties, and a substantial amount of savings that totaled up to several $1,000,000. Overnight, I became a millionaire. I was stunned. It felt surreal. I had been so focused on his care that I never thought about his money or what he might leave me. I was grateful, of course, but I also felt overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do with it all, and honestly, I would have given it all up to have him back. About a month after I inherited my father's estate, guess who comes knocking on my door? Emily. She showed up with tears in her eyes, saying she was sorry for leaving and that she realized she had made a huge mistake. She said she wanted to make things right and was willing to work on our marriage. I was shocked. The last time I had heard from her was when she left. She hadn't called, texted, or even tried to check in while I was taking care of my father. Now suddenly, she wanted to come back? I couldn't help but feel suspicious. I asked her why she wanted to come back now, after all this time, and her answers were vague at best. She talked about how she had time to think, how she missed me, and how she realized she had been selfish. I didn't buy it. I felt like she was only back because she found out about the money. I asked her point blank if she knew about my inheritance, and she tried to play dumb, but I could see it in her eyes. She knew. I told her I needed time to think, and that I wasn't sure if I could just pick up where we left off. She cried, pleaded, and she said she would do anything to make it right, but I wasn't convinced. Over the next few weeks, Emily kept trying to reach out. She sent me long messages about how much she loved me and how sorry she was for abandoning me. I felt conflicted. I had loved her deeply, and a part of me wanted to believe she was sincere. But another part of me knew that if the situation were reversed, if I hadn't inherited anything, she wouldn't be here now. I started talking to friends and a therapist about what I should do. Most of them agreed that Emily was likely more interested in the money than in me. My therapist suggested that I needed to think about what I wanted for my future, not just what Emily wanted. After a lot of soul-searching, I decided to move on. I told Emily that I couldn't take her back, that too much had happened, and I didn't trust her intentions. She blew up at me, calling me selfish and saying I was throwing away everything we had built together. She even accused me of being the one who abandoned her, which, let me tell you, felt like a slap in the face considering the circumstances. Emily didn't take my decision well. She tried to turn some of our mutual friends against me, telling them I was being cold and unforgiving. But most of them knew what had happened with my dad and sided with me. She even tried to appeal to my sympathy, saying she had nowhere to go and was struggling financially. I offered to help her get back on her feet, but she refused, saying she didn't want my pity money. Since then, she's been sending me angry messages and even showed up at my house a couple of times, demanding that we talk. I've had to block her on most platforms, and I'm considering getting a restraining order if she doesn't stop. I feel bad for her situation, but I can't shake the feeling that she's only sorry because of the money. If she truly loved me, she wouldn't have left in the first place. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for refusing to take my wife back after she left me while I was caring for my dying father, only to return when I became a millionaire? OP is absolutely not the a-hole here. His wife showed her true colors when she left OP in his darkest hour. Now that OP is in a better place financially, she suddenly wants to patch things up? OP should not let her manipulate him. OP deserves someone who values him for who he is, not for what's in his bank account. And also a person who would be his rock and support in his hardest times, and not like OP's wife, who leaves him and doesn't even bother asking how he is. And now let's hear the community's opinion. I can't even imagine the betrayal you must have felt when your wife left you while you were taking care of your dying father. That's a huge red flag about her character. Stick to your guns and don't let her guilt trip you into taking her back. You're better off without her. Not the a-hole. Your wife made her choice when she left. Now she has to live with the consequences of that choice. Don't let her back into your life just because she's trying to cash in on your father's hard-earned money. You're doing the right thing by moving on. It's clear that she's only interested in your money. If she truly cared about you, she wouldn't have left in the first place. You're not responsible for her poor decisions. Let her deal with the mess she made of her own life. I got married in March of this year. My husband comes from a wealthy family, so it was a rather elaborate affair. His sister and I have been friends for years, so she became my maid of honor. I come from a middle-class area, so from the beginning, I wrote out the expenses for bridesmaids ahead of time. How much the dress would cost, $300. My maid of honor was also planning a bachelorette trip that was going to cost quite a bit. She paid for most of it as my gift, and the rest of the bridal party would have to pay $500 per person, before airfare. I made it clear when asking each girl that 1, they didn't have to say yes to being in the wedding, and 2, even if they chose to, I didn't expect anyone to go on the trip if they couldn't afford it or couldn't get time off. I knew one of my friends, Nikki, was not doing so well financially, so I told her if she couldn't afford all of this, there would be no hard feelings, and I'd love to have her come as a guest. And even if she couldn't afford that, it's a destination wedding. I'd totally get it. She insisted that everything would be fine and she'd make it work. The wedding came and went. I thought everyone had a good time. Nikki and I didn't really talk after the wedding, but I chalked that up to busy schedules. We finally saw each other over 4th of July weekend. She seemed really exhausted. I asked what was wrong, and she said she was tired from work. This confused me because Nikki is a teacher and doesn't work summers. She said she took on 2 summer jobs because she was in a bit of debt. I didn't understand because Nikki is always so good with money. I didn't say that though, and said I was sorry to hear that. Nikki got annoyed and said maybe she wouldn't be in debt had I not had such a luxurious wedding. I was caught off guard. Nikki explained that she maxed out a credit card to be in my wedding. I felt really guilty, saying I never wanted that. She was still annoyed with me and said it was my fault. I got a little annoyed myself and pointed out she knew all the expenses up front, and I gave her several outs, even saying if she didn't come to the wedding, we'd be fine. She said she wanted to support me, but I should have considered everyone's budget. I asked why I shouldn't have a nice wedding because she couldn't afford it. She left the barbecue and we haven't spoken since. Am I the a-hole? The way to include non-wealthy people, most people, is to make it affordable, not to tell them you won't mind if they miss it. In fact, saying that is worse than saying nothing. You shouldn't have considered her budget. You should have just paid. I've always thought it was gauche and classless to throw a party and expect others to pay for it. Your husband's family externalized their cost onto the poor, which is sadly typical class behavior. Yes, the a-hole. I liked how the hen party was only $500 plus airfare. Whenever I've planned hen parties, we've budgeted £150 to £200 per person, including travel. If you actually care about your friends and want them to come, you make it affordable. I'd rather have a cheap party with all the people I care about than a lavish to-do with only rich people or force people into debt. Yes, the a-hole. Everyone sucks here. Yeah, she didn't have to take on the debt. Also, it's kind of a crappy move to value having a super expensive bachelorette party over everyone being able to participate. Clearly, you had plenty of money to throw around. Could you not have offered to pay for your struggling friend? Or planned a non-destination bachelorette, given you were already having a destination wedding? Planning a wedding and bachelorette that only your rich friends can attend doesn't make you a particularly good friend, even if you're entitled to do so. I mean, it's her wedding though, and she can have it wherever she wants. And the maid of honor paid for most of the bachelorette party, not her. I personally wouldn't be able to afford this kind of stuff if I was her bridesmaid, and I don't think she did anything wrong. I, 24 female, got married to my husband, 25 male, recently. Our wedding was everything I imagined, and I love him so much. But his mom is just plain awful. Let's just say she would give Tylenol a headache. Anyway, me and my husband were sorting out our honeymoon plans, and we were so excited to finally get some alone time, until his mother suddenly decided she was coming along with us. We were slightly taken aback, and genuinely thought she was kidding, so we laughed it off. She glared at us, straight face and all. She said, "I'm coming along, aren't I?" Me and my husband couldn't help but laugh. More of an awkward laugh, I guess. Mother-in-law then said, "What's so funny? I'm serious." My husband then said, "No, Mom, you're not coming. Why would you think that?" And then started laughing again. Mother-in-law was shocked. She said, "What do you mean? Mother-in-laws always go on the honeymoon." Of course they don't. I have no clue where she got that from, but she was adamant she was coming along. Me and my husband then said that it was our alone time, and our honeymoon was for us and us only. Mother-in-law was furious and snapped at us, saying she deserved to come since she helped so much with the wedding. She hardly helped. She only paid for a part of it. My mom and my husband's sister did most of the planning with us, actually. We told my mother-in-law she wasn't coming, and that was final. We said it politely as possible, of course. She didn't take it well at all and stormed out of our house, calling me a selfish witch and calling me an ungrateful a-hole, saying that we didn't deserve all her help. My husband snapped at her and told her to leave immediately, told her to stop being so rude to us in our own home, and to stop acting like a huge child about it. Mother-in-law called us a-holes and left the house still complaining. Got back from honeymoon and haven't spoken to mother-in-law since. Both of our families are on our side and called my mother-in-law a giant baby and said she was rude, but apparently mother-in-law needs time to process, as according to her, we're still ungrateful a-holes. Me and my husband are happier than ever, and we truly can't care what she thinks. I personally don't see anything wrong with the way me and my husband reacted, but from the perspective from other people, were we the a-holes or were we in the right? You told an emotional toddler no. She then threw a toddler tantrum and rage quit. She is 100% at fault, and it's very good you stood up to her now. She's going to be testing your boundaries to see how far she can push before you say no and really mean it. If she had come, the next on the list would be her and her baby sharing a double and you going somewhere else to sleep. It's always about power and control. If she can slip into your honeymoon, she can slip into your marriage, your house, your pregnancy, delivery, parenting. It just never ends. Once the third wheel is firmly established, you'll have an easier time getting glitter out of your carpet than her out of your life. Be vigilant. Now you know she has no respect for boundaries. She will 100% try again and again. Little things that she'll make seem reasonable, like you're crazy to refuse. Then next thing you know, she's cut the cord, changed your baby's name, and sent a close-up video of you in the stirrups to the internet. Not just Facebook, but the whole internet. Like people who use Netscape will get the wide-angle view with screeching commentary. "I'm the grandma, it's my right." Better to just never let her get a foothold in the first place.